citizens of New York, passers-by, fellow protesters, people of the press, friends, and enemies. The group you see gathered here today is known by many names. Most Americans refer to us as ultra-Orthodox Jews. Others call us Haredim. The Israeli government calls us an existential threat. In fact, there are government officials in Israel that said we are a greater threat to Israel than Iran. The reason why we're an existential threat to Israel is because Israel, despite what they tell you in the news, doesn't merely want to be a Jewish state, a so-called Jewish state. They don't merely want Jewish hegemony in Israel. They want to be a Zionist state. And we are anti-Zionist Jews. And enough, there are so many anti-Zionist Jews that a critical mass of us creates an existential demographic threat for the entire Israeli society. Their officials have said that we are a threat, that before you know it, in a few years, in one generation, Israel will, God forbid, heaven forbid, not become a Zionist state anymore, because there will be too many anti-Zionist Jews in the state of Israel, and therefore we are to them the biggest existential threat. They are more scared of us than they are scared of the Iranian nuclear bombs. The difference between Zionist Jews and Orthodox Jews is that Orthodox Jews follow the Torah. We define our Jewishness according to our religion. Jews don't comprise a nationality or an ethnicity or a race. Jews have no common land, language, or culture. Our land is the United States of America. The Holy Land is a holy land, not a national homeland, because despite what it says in Israel's Declaration of Independence, our nation was not born there. They were born in 1948, and we were born a few thousand years before that in the desert at Mount Sinai when God gave us the Torah, in no country and no land. We have no national language. Lashon HaKodesh, the holy language, is reserved today for prayer and holy texts. Jews once spoke Aramaic. Jews speak today Yiddish, Ladino, whatever language. In the days of the Bible, we spoke Hebrew, but none of these languages, including Hebrew, ever made us into a nation. No land makes us into a nation, and we have no common culture. Our homeland, as the Bible calls it, Amoiledes, is the Torah, our religion itself. With the Torah, we are within our homeland. If we don't keep the Torah outside of its borders, we are dead. Our only mission as Jews is to be a Mamleches Kaihanim v'Goy Kodosh, a kingdom of priests and holy people. We always clung to the Torah and we were proud to be Jews. We were in love with our religion and would never give it up, despite being the subject of anti-Semitic hatred and yes, even persecutions. But there were those that didn't like being Jewish. They hated being Jewish. They considered Jewishness a terrible burden and Judaism a disgusting religion. They blamed the Jewish religion and the Jewish character and the Jewish society for anti-Semitism. And they agreed with the anti-Semites that the Jews are ugly, shameful, and cowardly. And they said if only we could change, if only we could be like the anti-Semites who hate us, they will hate us no more. If only we could be like all the other nations, anti-Semitism would end. They decided that we're going to show the anti-Semites that we're not religious Jews. We aren't a kingdom of priests and holy people. We are just like them. We're just like the anti-Semites. We're going to show the world, they said, we don't have a holy land. We have the state of Israel, a national homeland. We don't have a holy language. We have Ifrit, a national speaking language. We have a culture like every other nation. Who needs holiness? We have hummus. What makes us into a people, said the Zionists? Not God, not our religion, but a land, a language, and a culture. They sat and synthesized a new nationality that was a combination of fascism, socialism, Russian workers' movements, German romanticism, and ideas from other religions. They said, this is what we're going to turn Jewish identity into. Their goal was to convince the Jews and the non-Jews that Jewishness is not a religion, but the nationalistic identity that they invented. That identity is known as Zionism. The Zionists invented. The Zionists invented a new version of Jewish history, Jewish aspiration, Jewish goals, and Jewish beliefs, all to replace authentic Judaism, all to transform the Jews into Zionists. The main tool that they needed to accomplish this was they needed their own country, a state that could be called the Jewish state, that will represent the Jewish people all over the world, that will represent us to the world. A state that will have its own Jewish educational system, state-sponsored propaganda, and from that state will go forth the Zionist version of Jewish identity, Jewish history, Jewish aspirations. They will teach us who the enemies of the Jews are and who the friends are. Who the Zionist means to change the Jewish values into the diametrical opposite of the Jewish values. But there was a problem. Religious Jews have their own educational system. Ben-Gurion called the Jewish people have their own educational system. And the Zionists believed that the problem was the Jews. He's right. The Zionists believed the Jews were the problem and the religion was the problem. But the Jews would never agree with the Zionists because we have our own educational system, and no Jew, no real Jew who is the real problem, would send their children to a Zionist educational system. So they found another method to indoctrinate and educate the Jews to become Zionists. They found a place where they could force all Jews to join. And in that place, the Jews would have to follow the orders of their Zionist masters, to jump when the Zionists said jump, read when the Zionists said read, run when the Zionists said run, kill when the Zionists said kill. That indoctrination camp is the Israeli army. The Israeli army is not merely a place that teaches their soldiers how to shoot, but it teaches them that Zionism is part of the Jewish identity. It teaches them the role that Israel plays not only in the defense of Israel, but the continuity of all Jews. Ben-Gurion said that the Israeli army is a melting pot. It'll take the Hungarian Jews and the Syrian Jews and the Taimani Jews and the Ashkenazi Jews and the German Jews and French Jews and make them all into Esav and Nimrod. Through their and Avigdor Lieberman, may his name rot with the rest of the wicked people in the world, recently said that the reason why they want to draft the Haredim into the army is because the army is a melting pot and he wants to melt them all and make them all into Zionists, because if we don't draft the Jews into the army, there will be no more Zionists eventually. There'll be more Haredim than Zionists. They tried this once before, but it didn't work. Jews are not allowed to be in the Israeli army. Jews are not allowed to have an army. Today in exile, we're not allowed to make any wars. But for women, the prohibition is even worse. They tried to draft the women into the army, and the women said, we're not going. Ben-Gurion said, I'm going to enforce the law with our police. The girls told Ben-Gurion, we'd rather die than go to your army. And the Zionists learned right then and there that they can't force the Jews to go into their Zionist indoctrination camp. They learned, like the Jews resisted the Inquisition, and the Jews resisted various enemies that tried to change their religion, we resist the Zionists too. So today the Zionists found a new strategy. Instead of vinegar, instead of force, the Zionists are using honey. They officially exempt women from religious women from conscription, but they make sure with every trick in a book that the women can't utilize their exemption. They use now trickery, small print, interrogation techniques to break the will of the individuals who they target. And they always target the weakest. They try to build a case against them that they're not really religious. Yes, women have legal rights in Israel, but the Zionists are bent on ensuring that these rights remain inaccessible to their targets. Last week, and this is what triggered this protest, 3 women were arrested. For what crime? What crime did these women commit? They handed out pamphlets to women in Israel on the street explaining to them their legal rights. And for this they were arrested. They were interrogated like criminals, and the Israeli authorities demanded to know who gave them their information and who's behind this campaign of informing citizens of their legal rights. All this in order to force Orthodox Jews, Orthodox women and men into the Zionist indoctrination camp, in order to transform a nation of scholars into a nation of soldiers. Israel claims to be a democracy. Now all Jews, all Orthodox Jews should stand against this law, but not only Jews, passers-by. I'm speaking in English because I'm speaking to you as well. All civilized human beings ought to stand with us against what Israel is doing to the Orthodox Jews. Israel claims to be a democracy, but what democracy looks at the proliferation of a religious group amongst its citizens, law-abiding citizens, as an existential demographic threat because of their religious beliefs? What country uses its army, indeed created its army, as an indoctrination camp to induce recruits to accept the official state's religion? And what country ever in the history of the world forcefully inducted women into their army, specifically in order to change their personalities and their religious beliefs? What democratic country in the world, passers-by, if anybody can tell me, has clandestine government meetings to devise strategy to obliterate traditional Judaism from its citizens and replace it with Zionism, either the religious or the secular version? What democracy, what country anywhere claims to be the nation state of people, of all the Jews, of people who are not its citizens, don't live there, never lived there? I was born Jewish. My father's from Poland and my mother's from Russia. And Israel, some state in the Middle East, claims to be my country because I was born Jewish. Is that a democracy? I can't escape them claiming they're my state no matter where I run or hide. Benjamin Netanyahu claims he's my prime minister. Is that a democracy, or is that a dictatorship? What kind of democracy anywhere prohibits its citizens to read about their own legal rights and arrest as criminals those who try to teach them those rights? And it's because of this one goal. And Jews such as me and such as we here today should buy into their ideology. They use force, coercion, and pressure to pressure young men and women into their army. It's because of this goal that they want to change us into Zionists, that we should abandon our religious beliefs for nationalist Zionism, that they created this church of Zionism that they call the IDF. And they harass Jews and falsely claim they're our state. And therefore, we are here today to proclaim, 1, Judaism is not Zionism. Judaism is a holy religion. Zionism is a heretical, political, nationalist movement. 2, Israel is not the state of the Jewish people. It's the state of the Israeli people. 3, Israel does not represent the Jews and does not speak in their name. And 4, Jews are not responsible for the actions or the ideology of the state of Israel. We say to our Jewish sisters and brothers in Israel who are sitting in jail, who are cowering at home, who are in hiding, who are in need of legal assistance, who are in physical and spiritual danger, who refuse to be inducted into an army that has no moral right to draft anyone, the army of a state that has no moral right to call itself Jewish, we say to them, we have your back. We'll help you financially, politically, legally, and in any way we can to ensure your freedom of religion and to end the farce that the Zionist state is trying to commit. And to Israel we say, to the state of Israel, to them, we promise never to stop being your biggest fear. We promise never to stop being your biggest existential threat. We promise to be the big supporters of the safety and security and the rights of the Jewish people, and at the same time, we promise, we swear, to be the worst nightmare to the ideology of Zionism and to the Zionists. Because Zionism is an existential threat to our people and our religion. We promise, just as Jews refuse to go like sheep to the slaughter when coerced throughout history into abandoning their religion, we too will not go like sheep to the slaughter, but will rise like lions against the Zionist attempts to destroy our religion. And as Ben-Gurion saw when he tried to forcibly draft our holy sisters, the Jews who survived the Roman persecutions, Russian pogroms, and inquisitions will survive the Zionist forced indoctrination as well. Neither your sting nor your honey will ever bring us to our knees.
Amen.